Hello everybody, my name is Amber Triunfo, and before I start my speech, I'm in no way advocating the excessive and unhealthy use of drugs. However, if used to better your health physically or mentally, then go right ahead. Now, there are more than 3 million cases of depression in the U.S. per year, and according to the AAFP news outlet in 2018, 1 in 12 adults reported to have depression. Now, with depression, people try to do therapy or people try to take antidepressants like Prozac and Zoloft, yet we see how this is working. Depression just gets worse and the suicide rates have just been getting higher over the years. And so what can we do? Well, psychotherapy is another thing that can work, and I mentioned psychotherapy because it's found to have a lower rate of relapse, 26.5%, than antidepressants, which is a 56.6% rate of relapse. Now, I'm here to introduce the use of magic mushrooms as a form of psychotherapy. Yes, magic mushrooms. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are just like, whoa, that kind of escalated fairly quickly, which it did, but just hear me out. So, the research for psychedelics and magic mushrooms have been fairly new, yet the results of this research has been found to be quite promising. So I'm going to start with a smaller study that was conducted by the Beckley Foundation in 2016. And they treated 20 patients with treatment-resistant depression and who had it for like 18 years. And they took 2 doses of psilocybin, and in 1 week, their depression went down by more than half. After a 3-month follow-up, it kind of went back up a little bit, but just to half, and the results were still fairly positive. And another one, which actually started this whole research process that's going on now, was the one at Johns Hopkins University in 2016, where they tested 51 patients with life-threatening cancer. And it has showed that psilocybin magic mushrooms decreased depression, anxiety, and even death anxiety, and actually increased optimism and quality of life. And doctors and family members were there to vouch for the patients. And after a 6-month follow-up, 80% of the participants continued to show clinically significant decreases in depression and anxiety. And so, because of that, the FDA, people were more interested in doing studies, and the FDA even approved for breakthrough therapy designation for psilocybin therapy twice in 2019 to the Compass Pathways and the USANA Institute. And the USANA Institute is even going to conduct a phase 2 trial in early 2021. Now, you're probably wondering, why hasn't there been a lot of studies? Like, why haven't they been studying it? Well, it's because in 1968, psychedelics became illegal, and so that just halted all the studies that were happening for psychedelics, and also the negative association that mushrooms had with hippies at the time, with the hippie movement. Not a lot of researchers found that it was relevant to study because of that, because of the bad light it was in. So they stopped, and I guess they went on with antidepressants, but we all see how that's going. So we just got to get rid of the stigma, the negative stigma around psychedelics. It's not going to harm you. You're not going to lose your mind if you take it. According to Mark Hayden, the MAPS Canada executive director, the bad experiences in psychedelics all come down to 3 things: inappropriate dosage, inappropriate expectation going into the experience, and inappropriate setting, which is the environment you're taking them in. Now, if all those 3 things are carefully managed, then you get intense emotions and intense experiences, and maybe periodically distressing experience, but that doesn't mean they're bad experiences. So taking these are supposed to produce a cathartic experience for you, where basically all the emotions that you've bottled up, everything that you bottled up, sadness, anger, when you take this, you have the chance to bring it up to the light and do something about those emotions. So if you're crying or if you're upset during your trip, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually really good for the healing process. So get rid of that, and the more studies that we do, we got to keep funding foundations like MAPS to keep doing studies. And the more studies with positive results we do, the more psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, scientists will get on board and be like, you know what, this actually might go somewhere. This might actually be beneficial to people. So we just got to get rid of that and basically spread awareness around right now, since these findings are fairly new. And so if you go on Netflix and you go look up the Goop Lab with Gwyneth Paltrow on Netflix, the first episode is called The Healing Trip, and you get to see on that episode what it's like to be in one of these therapy sessions. They had to do it in Jamaica because mushrooms are legal in Jamaica. And you get to see the cast members just, release. They look into themselves. People cry and laugh, yet it all ends up being a release. And you witness the cathartic experience these guys experience, basically. One of the cast members were saying how she was traumatized by her father's suicide, yet going to this made her feel like she had 5 years of therapy in 5 hours. So it's not going to be the number one antidepressant. Maybe it's not going to be over the counter. People can't just buy them at the pharmacy. They're going to be, it's going to be like a therapy session is what I'm trying to get at. Where you got to make an appointment and go to the place. There might be therapy centers made for it. There might be therapy centers already made that incorporate the practice. Yet it's just a building block of it getting better, basically. So what we got to do basically is get rid of the negative stigma and keep doing studies and keep doing research. And the more that, I promise you, there will probably be a big breakthrough in mental health medication with this. And I am Amber Triunfo, and that is my speech.